Welcome to Prescribing Lifestyle, the podcast that's all about empowering you to live your healthiest, happiest life. I'm your host, Dr. Avi Charlton, and each week we'll dive into the latest research, practical tips, and inspiring stories to help you optimize your well-being. From nutrition and fitness to mental health and mindfulness, we'll explore every aspect of lifestyle medicine, giving you the tools you need to make informed decisions and take control of your health. Whether you're looking into preventing disease, managing chronic conditions, or simply elevate your quality of life, Prescribing Lifestyle is here to guide you on your journey to wellness. So, sit back, relax, and get ready to embark on this transformative adventure towards a healthier, happier you. Let's dive in. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Prescribing Lifestyle Podcast. Today, I have a lovely lady, Despina Kolivas. She's a PhD student from Trobe Uni, and she has been doing research using the Defeat diabetes app. Welcome, Despina. Thank you for coming on the podcast.
Thank you, Avi. It's really nice to be on.
Thank you. I'll get you to introduce yourself and tell us what sort of research you're doing and tell us about your journey.
Okay, so I am a nutrition researcher, but I came to nutrition research sort of in midlife. I previously had a career as an engineer and also I worked as an economist for the state government. But I found that as I was getting older and having some family responsibilities, I was becoming more and more interested in nutrition. So I was fortunate enough to be able to go back to university and study nutrition. I originally thought that I might want to be a dietitian, but the clinical side, I really was feeling like, especially in the hospital setting, you're dealing with the sort of the end result of bad health. So I sort of was more interested in trying to find out why we get there, and if there's any role in the way that we can help people with nutrition so that they can not end up in hospital, I guess. And then, so I moved across to nutrition, and I did an honours year because I wanted to get that experience in research. And I actually did a research study with my current supervisor, George, and it was looking at the effect of cocoa flavonoids. And it was actually a study in nematodes, which are worms.
Okay.
You might want to think about it like that. And they have a very short lifespan, so it's really easy to study, to be able to do hypothesis generating research on these small, easy to manage nematodes. And so that's where I started with my nutrition research. And then we had COVID. And then I was contacted after COVID finished. I think it's beginning or the end of 2021. And my supervisor, George, said, I think this might be an interesting project for you. Are you interested in research, like in doing a PhD? So I talked to him about it, and I did have an interest in low carb. I found low carb earlier on, and and that's how I ended up doing this research project. So I made an application. Started this PhD.
Yeah. Tell us about how you got into low carb in the first place. You said it was way earlier before you did the research.
Yeah, actually, that's one of the reasons why I wanted to go back and study nutrition, because I found that I actually found low carb before I wanted to study nutrition, because a lot of the things that in the low carb sort of education made a lot of sense, like logically, and so but I didn't have that. I didn't come from a biological sciences background, so I didn't understand physiology. I didn't understand how all the how the body works, and so that's why that nutrition education was really important for me to understand, like to put it all together.
Yeah.
And it does from an engineering point of view, because that's my my previous
Yeah.
stint, trying to work things out is where I was coming from. So yeah, so that's why. And I found, I guess, just to tell you about where I found low carb, actually, through a Melbourne paleo meetup, which was back in I think 2010 or something like that, because that's where it started.
Yes.
So I learned about this paleo diet and thought, oh, that's interesting. That sort of makes a bit of sense.
Yeah.
And then it sort of, trying to understand why it works is how I got into low carb.
Did you have a personal journey that did you want to lose weight, or was there something that you wanted to reverse?
In terms of my own health, I didn't really. I was trying to live the healthy diet, like I was having, trying to do all the right things. I probably, if I look back, I was probably trying really hard to follow the guidelines, like to, manage my portions and eat everything. So I was never overweight. And, but I probably wasn't, I wouldn't have considered myself healthy. I did exercise a lot, like that was another thing.
Yeah.
But I think the thing that really did it for me was two things. One is I became a mum, and I started thinking more and more about how do I feed my children healthy food.
Yeah.
And I realised I really didn't understand very much. So that was what started that. And then also my dad became very unwell. He ended up being diagnosed with Alzheimer's, but he had pre-diabetes, and he had, when I look back now, which I didn't understand at the time, he probably had metabolic syndrome for most of his adult life.
Oh, wow.
And so then also that was an area of interest for me, is like, well, what can we do? Like, how can we help people with these conditions so that they don't end up pretty much like my dad did. So
that's amazing. So you've been low carb for, you said 10 years before you started this research?
Yeah, I think, more than that.
Wow, great. So you applied for this research, and tell us a bit more about this research.
Okay, so the brief, when I first applied for this PhD, it's an industry funded scholarship together with Trobe University, with Defeat Diabetes. And so Defeat Diabetes, I think many people that listen to you may know, be aware, but I'll just briefly summarize. It's a program, an online program that helps people learn about managing their type 2 diabetes with a low carbohydrate diet. So it provides education modules, it provides recipes, and any information that they need is there in the app. So it's an online program.
Yeah.
And what my supervisors wanted to do was to provide this app to people with type 2 diabetes, and to see whether that can help them manage their diabetes control and potentially reverse it or put it into remission.
Yeah.
So that's really, and we wanted to do that over a period of about 12 months to see, if it's sustainable for a lot of people, and to see what that effect would be like. So that's broadly the research. The clinical outcomes are the primary focus, but we also wanted to see and understand how people's experience of this journey went in terms of their overall health. So we do collect health information, like we ask them to complete some validated questionnaires to see how they're feeling at the start and then all the way through.
Great. I remember when I maybe just after COVID, I was having dinner at Rod Taylor's house, and Peter Bruckner was there, and he was announcing about this new venture of his that he developed and thought of during the COVID lockdown. So he's used the COVID lockdown time and developed this app called Defeat Diabetes. And at that time, it was just an app. And he collaborated with Paul Mason and Nicole Moore and developed this app. And I was really supportive and thought it was a great idea how he put all the learning lessons into the app and how he's got recipes and a Facebook group and trying to support people on this journey on learning to do low carb.
Yeah, yeah. It's a wonderful app. And, like it's information that is easily understood,
Yeah.
by a lot of people. So it's great. It's a great resource. So, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And I had lunch one day, maybe a year after that, with Peter Bruckner, and I was suggesting, hey, how about we all GPs have access to this app, and so you can teach the GPs on how to do low carb, how to practice low carb. And this is way before I met you, Despina, on the
Yes.
research.
Yeah.
And then he suggested that, oh, how about you can help with the research as well afterwards? And that's how he and connected you to me.
Yes. Yes. Actually, that's a major part of our research is the GP engagement. Because we just would not be able to do this study ethically. Like there's a lot of work that goes into
Yeah,
developing a study protocol. In
yeah,
fact, the first 6 months of my work was basically developing this protocol, trying to get it through our ethics committee. And the
okay.
main reason is that, people with type 2 diabetes are often on medications and they need
Mm,
medical support.
yeah,
And so um, during that time of the protocol development, we were trying to figure out how we can collect this data is already being collected. How
yeah,
can we harness? How can we get this? And that's when we were fortunate enough to get some GP principal investigators involved, and your
yeah.
help as well, Avi.
Mm-hmm.
Like I remember coming to visit you to understand the data collection, like the data collection that GPs do,
Yeah.
and how easy it is to be able to collect it.
Yeah,
So
it
yeah,
was lots of technicalities on planning the research. So you spent 6 months trying to plan the whole thing.
yes, yes, and that's actually quite quick compared to
Okay,
some other research.
all right.
Um, but yeah, and getting the approvals from our ethics department, and also just, I mean, even understanding like my supervisors are not clinicians, as in, well,
Hmm.
Peter is a clinician, but he's not working in a
No.
GP practice, and
Hmm.
having GPs support us, we needed to understand how they could do it, and if that
Yep,
what would be within the scope of Medicare as well. So there
yep,
was
yep.
what data can we collect,
Hmm.
and then we had to
Mm.
go out and actually ask GPs to support us, because our referral process, um, in line with our ethics um, uh, requirements, meant that any participant that was referred to us had to have been referred by a GP that was willing to support them through the
Hmm.
process,
Yep,
and take care of the medical management. So, for instance, the deprescribing of medications, and not just for diabetes, but for blood pressure as
yep.
well. And there are real safety issues around that. So,
Great. So how many GPs did you end up recruiting in the end?
so we did get a lot of interest, and we advertised our study in a lot of ways. We
Yeah,
ended up,
yep.
and you were actually very helpful, Avi. I think the Facebook post to the GP groups was a really good source of getting GP
Okay.
interest. So we
All
ended
right.
up having 154 GPs sign a letter of support saying they understood the study requirements and that they
Yeah.
would be happy to refer a patient if there was one that was willing to be involved in our study.
Okay.
Um, we did end up having 54 GPs refer patients to us, so
Great.
refer their patients. I did have a few GPs actually contact me saying, I really want to refer someone, but I just can't find someone. So
Okay.
there is interest in the GP community in
Yep,
using this
yep.
approach.
Great. Yeah. Because it really depends on who comes along in the GP world. So I've been searching for participants for you for during those times as well. And I've come across maybe three or four, and depends on who comes into the door and who satisfies the criteria, and who's keen to learn from the app and who's keen to start low carb. So there's a lot of criteria that we need to satisfy.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. We didn't have too many eligibility criteria, but the ones that you've mentioned, yes, you need to have, and I mean, you exclude a lot of people that don't have tech literacy.
Mm.
You exclude a lot of people from non-English speaking backgrounds.
Yeah.
And also there are a lot of people, and you probably see this with, we had a requirement for HbA1c being above 6.5%.
Yep.
Or greater than or equal to 6.5%. And there are probably a lot of people in that pre-diabetes range,
Yes.
which I think is actually probably a really good
Yeah.
place to start. But
Yeah.
when we're looking at clinical outcomes, we wanted the diagnosis of type 2 diabetes to be
Yep.
the primary feature. So
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Great. So, you also provided some education sessions for the GP, which I thought it was
yes,
awesome.
yes.
And yeah, there was quite a few Zoom sessions that I attended that you provided education for the GPs.
Yes, we we were really lucky in our research process and during the protocol development that we had a core group of GPs that were helping us, and in particular, Dr. Ron Schweitzer and Dr. Liz Fraser and yourself, who were able to provide that guidance, because low carb is new to a lot of GPs, and it was, I think, for a lot of GPs, there may have been a little bit of apprehension or just lack of confidence in, they could see that, these are good outcomes, but
Yeah.
it's just, finding a patient that they can do it on, and also having that confidence to put it into practice. It's a new thing for them. So
Yeah.
we did put on 9 Zoom sessions in total. Just the first ones were introductions to the study and like what we were sort of trying to do, and then there were a lot of case presentations and some information about dietary guidelines, and also the ROCGP guidance as well on diet and type 2 diabetes. And we did have a participant also come to speak to the GPs online.
Yeah. Because a lot of the listeners think that GPs don't have time to learn, and they go to the GP, the GPs just want to give them statins. So I'm just trying to open up that there are a bunch of GPs which are keen to learn about different ideas, and of course this is skewed data that these GPs are interested. But just to open up, then there's lots of GPs who are interested as well.
Yeah, and even this participant that I was mentioning, he was so happy with how he went on the study that he was asking me, what can I do? How can I help?
Yeah.
Spread the word, and that's one of the reasons why we did this session with him for the GPs, to share his story. And I actually shared his story at the recent Low Carb Down Under conference in Melbourne in August.
Great. Why don't you share your story now? Because our listeners like to hear stories.
Okay. So Robert, I can mention his name because he has given me permission to talk about his case.
Okay.
I remember when he first spoke to me when I was enrolling him in the study, and I don't know, Avi, maybe in your experience, you might see people that are just happy to take medication. They might come to you and they might say, "Oh, I don't want to hear about this. I just want give me the medication." Robert wasn't like that. He actually was. I think he was approaching retirement, or he was just recently retired, and he was frustrated that he wasn't able to get his diabetes under control, and he seemed to be prescribed more and more medications, and he didn't like it because he didn't like taking the medications, but it was also very expensive for him. And so he was asking me what are the chances of me coming off these medications, and I said, look, I can't guarantee anything, but let's, you can try, be part of our study and see if you can improve your diabetes control. And, some people do come off their medications. And so he took me at my word.
Yeah.
And downloaded the app, and he was using the recipes. So he was, I should have explained, he is around in his early 60s, I think, I believe. And he's married, lives with his wife, again, recently retired. So he had some time to really understand the lessons, and he was using the resources, the recipes, and his HbA1c came down quite significantly. I think it was around, actually I should pull up his case, but
That's all right. Just a rough idea.
Yeah, so I think it was around 9, and he's got it down 2 percentage points in the first 3 months. And so and he'd lost weight, and his blood pressure had come down. And by 6 months, his lipids had changed to a more favorable profile.
Yep.
He'd lost more weight, further improvements in blood pressure. So he was very happy with the program. And I think he even became he was so happy he even became a case feature on the Defeat Diabetes app webpage.
Okay, great. They always want to look for participants to be featured. Yeah, that's great. Yep. Yeah. And he felt better and more energy and all those things. Yeah.
Yes. And I think it came at the right time for him when he had the time to invest in, and he loved to cook as well. So I think it was, perfect. Sometimes it's hard. I do have participants that have struggled with stress, especially stress seems to be a big problem.
Yes.
Like you can have all the information in the world and know what the right things to do are, but if you're not in a place where you can, take the time to plan, and if you've got other things happening in your life, it's not going to be enough, and you do need further support. And I think Defeat Diabetes acknowledge that, and they do actually offer a new program with health coaching now.
Okay. Yep.
So yeah, because some people are very good, and you probably see it as well in your practice. Some people are very good; they take the information and they run with it.
Yeah.
And others might need a little bit more help.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a couple of patients that I referred to you who was quite keen on doing the research, and they wanted to learn, but then they couldn't because something happened and they had stress and they just didn't have the time or mental space to start to continue doing the research. So there are a couple of patients dropped out and just too much stress going on, which is all normal. It's all part of life.
Yes. And I mean, I think in terms of our results, like we do have people that haven't had, as good results. Usually it's almost certainly because of stress. But this is the real world.
Yes, that's
and
right.
we can't. This is why our study has a high external validity, as in like you could probably do this again somewhere else, and it will have similar outcomes because we are reflecting the real world experience of people. And I think that's really important.
Yeah, absolutely. So how many participants did you end up recruiting? And so
in the end we had 99 participants. We had out of those 99 we had 55 females. And from our data at 3 months, like our primary outcome HbA1c, we've shown a reduction in 1% after 3 months. So this is an average over all those participants.
Okay.
We saw an average reduction in carbohydrates in terms of as a percentage of overall energy of about 14%.
Okay.
And we did see systolic blood pressure improve by about 6 points.
Okay.
in that group. So the average. So yeah, and we did have quite a number of participants. We had 21 reduce their diabetes medications over that time, and 2 discontinue them entirely. So
Wow, that's amazing.
So yeah, these are our preliminary results. We are in the process. I just wanted to mention this as well. We're in the process of submitting these. We've submitted them for peer review for
Okay.
publication. So we've
Yep.
submitted them to a journal for publication. We're just
Yep.
awaiting on the peer review process, which can actually take some time.
Okay. All right.
So yes, so we're very, very pleased to be able to present those findings. And we did also find that a lot of people lost weight actually.
Yeah.
And 85% recorded a decrease in their HbA1c. So,
Yep.
yeah.
So the average people reduced the HbA1c by 1%. So I'm just thinking that's actually quite a lot, because if there's a person whose HbA1c is 7 and gone to 6, that's actually reducing a lot of risk for their diabetes risk, like amputations and heart attacks. Or if they go from 8% to 7%, that's fantastic as well.
Yes, actually, that's there's a paper that my supervisor Peter Bruckner forwarded to me about the risk of complications and why HbA1c reduction matters, because it is all correlated with the reduction in the risk of complications is correlated with that rising HbA1c as a percent.
Yeah.
So if you can reduce it into the normal range, you reduce the risk of those complications occurring.
Yeah. That's great. And so most people reduced HbA1c, and most people lost weight, improved their blood pressure. And what about their mental health and stress and well-being? Have you got any data on that?
Yes, we're actually preparing a paper right now
Okay.
to submit to a journal for publication. So we as I said, we asked participants to complete some health questionnaires. One of them was on their quality of life. One of them was on their diabetes self-efficacy, so how they feel about managing their type 2 diabetes.
Yeah.
We also asked them to complete a diabetes distress tool, which GPs probably use these in screening as well. Like, it's one of the things that the ROCGP recommends. And we also had a short form version of a sleep quality questionnaire that we asked participants to complete. So these were all done online.
Okay.
And that was the beauty of our studies. Like, everything was pretty much done online.
Yeah.
So what we found was that we did see improvements across the whole cohort with self-reported quality of life.
Okay.
And self-efficacy as well. So having that education helped them understand. I mean, you can make the direct correlation that having the education helped them understand how to manage their type 2 diabetes better. And we also saw a reduction in distress scores. So we did that distress screening at the start and at the reporting intervals that we did.
Yep.
And so they all improved in line with the degree of carbohydrate reduction. So and with the sleep quality, that was a little bit more tricky. We did see non-significant improvements. So when we say significant, that's a statistical term. So all those previous questionnaires that I mentioned, we did analyze them statistically, and we saw an improvement. With the sleep quality, we did see improvement in sleep scores, but they weren't like statistically significant, which means that they could have just been due to chance. However, when we did some further analysis, we found that, and this is something that we've just been working on just in the last week, female participants whose HbA1c improved had a higher correlation. Again, I can't say it's significant, but they correlated with improvements in sleep quality.
Okay.
So yes, and I think sleep is a tricky one.
Yeah,
because there's a lot going on there.
Yes.
But yeah, so we did see some improvements there too, which is great for our participants. So
yeah, absolutely. That's amazing. So where'd you go from here? You said it's almost finalized and there's not that much to go.
yeah, so we're just following up some last participants now until the end of the year. Hopefully we should have all that data before the end of December.
Okay.
And that's the 12-month data. So we do have the 3-month data that I was just mentioning. We are trying to publish that at the moment.
Yeah.
After that, we'll be working on a 6-month outcomes paper, and then finally the 12-month paper. We recently had I submitted some abstracts to. I also presented in Perth in August.
Oh, great.
Our 3-month results, as
Okay.
well as at the low-carb Melbourne.
Yes.
And I recently just received word that our abstracts for our 6-month outcomes, I submitted 2 abstracts to the International Diabetes Federation World Congress in Bangkok, and
wow.
they were accepted. So hopefully we'll present our findings there.
Awesome.
And that's in April. So yeah.
Wow, fantastic. So did you find most participants keep going for the 12 months? Or is there any getting worse between 6 months and 12 months?
Definitely there are people that are that did drop out at 6 months. It wasn't that many, but again, some of these people have other conditions like and also the stress issue.
Yes. Okay.
Or life factors. So, but at the moment, the people we're looking to have between 80 and 90 out of our original 99 participants completing the study. So I think it's a very good retention rate, especially for a lifestyle intervention. And I also believe that it's been possible because of the GP support. So the GPs have been able to provide us the data, good or bad. Like we do have the data. So so that's been really important for us as well.
Yeah, all right. That's amazing research. I think it's great that we have some low carb research going on and improving diabetes, improving all the health markers as well as lifestyle and lifestyle people feeling better as well in terms of their personal outcomes as well.
Yes, yeah. It's really as a researcher, it's been really rewarding, especially when some people we have an open we also do program evaluations.
Okay.
So it's just a very short questionnaire to ask them about how they've been using the program and if they've got any feedback for us. And we have an open box so that people can put in any comments. And some of those comments are, like as a researcher, I'm sitting here in front of my computer. This is how I'm doing my primary communication. We really don't have much communication over that time period with these participants. But some of the comments just make you feel really happy and people's lives have been changed and they feel much better. So it's very rewarding to be involved in this research. So
wow, that is great. That's amazing. Great work, Despina.
Yeah, no, thanks. Thanks for wanting to share information about our study, and hopefully we'll be able to share the results with you. And if you want to post post it on your socials when we have it. That would
Okay,
be great.
yeah. Well, maybe we can, when you really finalize it, and maybe down the track, we can have another episode to share your findings and when you finalize the research.
Yeah,
Even
that'd
if
be
it's
great.
just a 15, 20-minute episode, even if it's a shorter
Yep,
recording. Yeah,
yep,
that'll be
yeah.
great. Well, thank you, Despina, for coming on. Have you got any last words on what you advise the listeners?
I think, like, with low carb, I think give it a try. It helps. It's not just for type 2 diabetes. It can help in a lot of medical conditions, and that's
Yeah.
where what my interest is. Just give it a try, and if you do need help, you can reach out. Like, there's lots of information, credible information on the that you can access now, like the Defeat Diabetes program. If you need to see, like, get help, there's a lot of low carb GPs now. Back when I started doing low carbs, there was no such thing as a low carb GP. But there are many now that are very supportive of this approach, and it's wonderful to see people having access to the information that we have now. So it's great. So yeah, reach out for help if you need it, and experiment on yourself. You're not going to break yourself. It's very hard to break yourself unless you have a medical condition, then that's another thing. But
yeah. Great. All right. Well, thank you very much, Despina, for coming on.
Yep. No, thank you, Avi. And we'll be in touch again.
Yeah. Well, thank you all the listeners for listening and staying tuned. As I always say, if you don't look after yourself, you can't look after anybody else. Until next time, stay tuned. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Prescribing Lifestyle Podcast. Before we wrap up, I have an exciting news to share. I have a new ebook called Low Carb Made Easy. It's now available. This guide is perfect for anyone looking to dive into the low carb lifestyle. Inside, you'll find the basic theory behind low carb eating, a detailed food list, practical meal plan, and a variety of delicious recipes. It's designed to make a journey to better health easier, simpler, and enjoyable. For those who prefer a hard copy, head over to my website and register your interest using the link provided. My website is www.mlcclinic.com.au. Head to online store. Remember, the information shared in this podcast, it's for educational purposes only and not proper medical advice. Always consult your medical professional before making any changes to your lifestyle and diet, or you can come and see me in Melbourne Low Carb Clinic. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and stay connected with us on social media. Your feedback will help us improve and reach more listeners. Lastly, if you found this episode helpful, please share it with your friends and family. Together, we can make a positive impact to our health and our communities. Thanks again for listening, and as always, stay healthy and happy. Until next time.